My name is Butch Howard, and I'm a recovering addict. My story began when I was born in 1955. I was born with cerebral palsy, and although my disease wasn't as serious and severe as a lot of classic patients with cerebral palsy, it presented challenges in every walk of life, every day of life, and something I still live with today. As I was growing up, I realized very quickly in my life that I was different than the other kids. Fortunately for me, I had a very good church family, and I pretty much let church be my hiding place, my safe place. And as a result, very young and tender age of my life, church became very, very important. At age 18, I surrendered to go into full-time Christian service upon graduating from high school, and immediately I entered Bible school to prepare for the ministry. I had my church life on the one hand, which was the only real area of fulfillment that I had, and then I had this secret life going on within me that was ashamed. I felt as though I was flawed and not acceptable to the rest of the world. As I began to move into adulthood, this resentment became more and more obvious to me, and I feared was obvious to everyone around me, and so I internalized this resentment, covering it over, choosing to live in my mind. Fantasy became a big part of my life, and that's why I chose pornography. As a porn addict, I quickly realized that the life that I was living was totally inconsistent with who I said I was and the life that I was living. This great paradox created turmoil beyond anything I could put into words. And yet I was able to manage to keep it secret, and keep it internalized, and keep it out from the knowledge of almost everyone who knew me. At age 26, I encountered another major hurdle physically. I developed bilateral Meniere's disease. I was pastoring the church and doing what I thought was what God wanted me to do. I found myself binging, going deeper and further than I'd ever gone in my addictive behavior. All the while, the forces on the inside were building to a boiling point. So much so that my wife began to notice what was going on in my life, and she became fully aware of the magnitude of what was going on in my life. Woke up one Sunday morning, I'll never forget the day, January the 4th, 1991, and I became absolutely convinced that I was a lost man. I had made a childhood profession, but with all the contradiction and all the turmoil going in my life, there was no peace. There was no power to say no to my sin. God seemed a million miles away. That morning, around 5 a.m., I asked Jesus Christ to come into my heart and save me. I believe with all my heart that that's the moment that I became a child of God. Needless to say, the bombshell I dropped at church that morning was considerable, and yet it was the beginning of the life God had for me. I would love to say that after that day, I never struggled with addiction again. The truth is, I had no idea of the magnitude of the stronghold addiction has in a person's life. 11 years later, I am on the brink of suicide. I've already made a plan to take my life. I've made my funeral arrangements. I have determined that I was going to leave home on a business trip and not come back. I would take my life in that hotel room. Somehow, I don't know how, my wife found out, and she intervened. Well, when I got out of the hospital, my wife was gone. My kids very much disliked Dad, so much so neither one of them wanted anything to do with me. I lost my ministry. I lost my reputation. In fact, I had lost just about everything dear and precious to me, with the exception of my life, and that was the one thing I wanted to be rid of. Thankfully, God brought people into my life that showed me how to recover from addiction. What I do now in my life is do my best to try to tell everyone that no matter how far you are No matter how low you come, God can help you. God will help you. Look at me. Although we worked through some major issues in our life, one of them being that I had to come to realize just how much I had hurt my wife and family. God blessed me and gave me back my loving wife. Today, 32 years of marriage behind us, God has blessed me with a much better relationship than we ever had before. We're happy, we're comfortable together, and most of all, we're serving God together.